Hello again, everyone, and thanks so much for joining us for this Thursday's edition of Alaska Weather. I'm Dave Percy, a meteorologist with the National Weather Service, and I'll be hosting today's show. Up first, I forgot to pause the hazardous weather graphics. There are no watches, warnings, or advisories out anywhere around the state here for tonight or tomorrow, and probably at least into the weekend, the way it looks right now. And from there, moving on to river breakup map. Again, it's about over, so this will probably be the last time this graphic gets shown this season. And pretty smooth go at it here for the breakup this year. I don't think there was any flood advisories or warnings issued for breakup type flooding, except for the one they had in the Koyukuk River, which still has high water levels, but the advisory is now ended there. That was due to snow melt. So anyway, from that, we'll move to fire danger, and quite a good-sized area here. On the other side of the Alaska Range from people to the south here, except in the Copper River Basin there in that valley, still kind of some high fire danger there. And also up in the Tanana Valley, lower to mid-70s this afternoon. I saw Fairbanks had a east wind gust, or east-northeast gust to 25 miles an hour. So that helps to kick the fire dangers up with the lower humidities, dry conditions. A couple areas here in the mountainous areas right through there and a little bit to the west that are under the high fire danger threshold. But again, most of the upper Yukon Valley is into, looks like the Koyukuk Valley, and then down into the northeastern Kuskokwim Valley there. And that's mostly west of the Denali Park. And from there, looking at the next shot, this is St. Paul Island, and that is a mostly sunny day, if not just sunshine. A few of the lower clouds still floating around, but sunshine broke out there today. Wind's not all that bad, barely a breeze, or just a breeze there, or barely a breeze anyway. That should help to eventually start greening things up out there. I don't think that takes place until June, early June, which is coming up here, another few days. So moving on from there, you can see on the satellite imagery, out over the Bering Sea, easterly flow here, and a dry zone came offshore here between this band and the next band, which had the precipitation over the system. So you had this clear area here, and that moved from the southwest coast and moved into the Pribilofs earlier today for some good sunshine there. Not so much down here over the eastern Aleutians, low pressure there, just east of I believe on Alaska, and that gave east-northeast winds gusting to 45 miles an hour at Nikolsky and down to about, I think it was 25 or 30 over toward Atka, and then lighter winds and generally cloudy skies with areas of fog over the western Aleutians and locally into the Bering Sea here, except for the clearing that's taking place here over the southeast Bering, but then mostly cloudy with kind of breezy conditions at Tennessee. One of the windier areas there in the Bering Strait with gusts 30 miles an hour with some drizzle, low clouds, and fog that extended from about St. Lawrence Island up to the north, and then snow flurries with temperatures near freezing at mid-afternoon here for the eastern Beaufort Sea coast from central coast there on eastward to demarcation point, and winds up there out of the east gusting 25 to 35 miles an hour, but were lighter on the west side. And then moisture spreading northward, or actually in the central interior, hard to pick out, but there's right through here a line of developing showers, which in the next few hours or into early evening could develop into some isolated thunderstorms here later this evening. But last time I checked, I didn't see lightning strikes. And the bulk of the rain still off the coast here, with the exception of Kodiak Island, where they picked up a little over an inch in the last 12 hours of precipitation. And then Middleton Island had about a half an inch in the same time period. But contrast that with just a tenth of an inch at Seward and 5/100ths of an inch here in Anchorage, about 7/100ths in Kenai, and much lighter amounts along the North Gulf Coast, really less than a tenth of an inch here. and then just clouds over the Copper River Basin and the Matanuska-Susitna Valley areas, and winds gusting 25 miles an hour out of the southeast, Palmer, east-southeast. Of course, that kept it dry there today, and sunshine breaking out here across the southeast coast. Dry conditions, still some clearing a little bit off the central coast there, but this next front will be edging in later tonight, and but rain probably holding off till really late tonight or early tomorrow. Otherwise, some sunshine here with thermal trough just north of the Alaska Range, and then a narrow band of showers developing right through here. Nothing significant yet, but I wouldn't be surprised to see a thunderstorm here this evening. Otherwise, back to the sunshine to the north, and then north of the Brooks Range on out toward the Arctic coast. Again, temperatures near freezing with a few flurries and some patchy fog. Out over the Bering Sea, again, light rain, fog, drizzle, nothing too organized. Heaviest rain back with this system, much lighter amounts here, just a few hundredths of an inch with some IFR, depending on where you are out here. But again, that area pushing back to the west there, coming on the north side of this low, now coming south. So you may get a few more hours of some sunshine there for the Pribilofs. And actually some breaks all the way up to the southwest coast. Looks like up into Norton Sound as well. And for tonight, that low pulls northeastward, continues to weaken. Still under 1,000 millibars in the central pressure, but be a zone of light rain or light drizzle. Areas of fog here, lower flying conditions, Alaska Peninsula, on up into Bristol Bay, just about to roughly the King Salmon area, Togiak Bay, and maybe into Kuskokwim Bay there. Otherwise, continued breezy northerly flow keeps it cool, cloudy, damp, foggy, occasionally that type of thing into the central Aleutians, but winds probably not gusting more than 25, 28 miles an hour. And again, could be still breezy this evening over portions of the eastern interior, so at the higher elevations, but those will be diminishing as the night wears on. Showers diminishing here, hanging up along the Alaska Range after a brief isolated thunderstorm possibly. Periods of light rain continue in Prince William Sound, kind of mostly cloudy, scattered, showery type night tonight coming up south central Alaska. Maybe some clearing showing up. Showers Kodiak Island. South flow continues, south to southeast flow. So I wouldn't look for any clearing at all with that type of weather pattern. This front edging up to the southeast coast late tonight. Probably spill some rain into the Elfin Cove area. Don't think it'll reach Haines or the Klondike Highway or Juneau or anywhere really inland from the outer coastline. This chance rain reaches the coast late tonight with that thing. And then we'll see for tomorrow that kind of stalls out and weakens. So that's going to keep it cloudy and wet, especially to start. Periods of rain into the morning, but into the afternoon, it'll become a little more intermittent and showery. And don't look for any clearing. That'll still be off the coast there, but the precipitation will be lightening up into the afternoon. But it'll extend back along the North Gulf Coast, Yakutat, up into the southeast Copper River Basin, especially the Wrangell Mountains, Prince William Sound to Portage and maybe, or Whittier, maybe Portage. Could be some partial clearing, hopefully, south central Alaska, Cook Inlet, Matanuska-Susitna Valley tomorrow. But generally, sunshine will be more widespread in the morning hours, and then with the afternoon heating, some showers, any one of which could develop into an isolated thunderstorm or scattered thunderstorms, especially along this thermal trough axis here, much like today. And that best chance would be central east side, but there's a chance all the way back into actually the Seward Peninsula. I don't think you have the moisture for any thunderstorms there, maybe the Nulato Hills, and should be mostly sunny and mild. Temperatures again, even in the upper Yukon Valley, Tanana Valley in the 70s. North Slope maybe, well, who knows, depending on when the low clouds and fog clear out, but it'll stay pretty well socked in on the east side. Bering Sea, not much change, same pattern here. Weak low now near the Alaska Peninsula, the original one lifting up to the north here. So high pressure, in fact, strong high pressure out there to the west, centered south of the central Aleutians, but ridging all the way up toward the Russian coast. And over the top of that, sliding a very weak warm front, which really doesn't make much progress at all. Barely gets into the Bering Sea even by Saturday afternoon. Otherwise, a weak trough here for about the usual weather you see over the Bering Strait in toward St. Lawrence Island. Low clouds, fog, drizzle, low flying conditions, scattered showers with a trough over the southwest interior. And again, in the afternoon, thunderstorm chances increase due to the heating. And again, most prevalent here over this central interior up toward the 40-mile country, upper Tanana Valley. Less showers, but still mostly cloudy for the southeast coast, and scattered isolated showers on the North Gulf Coast, maybe a little more clearing. It's the Sitna Valley on down to the Kenai Peninsula, maybe Kodiak Island, but the next front already starting to spread rain into the southwest part of the island there in the afternoon. Periods of light rain, fog, and drizzle. Winds not much of a factor with this system at all. And then some sunshine, mostly sunshine all the way up. Could start seeing a breakout on the north slope. Maybe especially the western Arctic coast could see some breaks, but looks like fog for the central and east side. High pressure holds out there over the western Bering Sea. For lows tonight out there, mostly in the lower 40s here, upper 30s for the Pribilofs, lower 30s St. Lawrence Island. Otherwise 40s here, southern interior, 50 to 55 in the central areas. Back into just under 40 in the Brooks Range, and mid to upper 20s for the Arctic coast, and 45 to 52 for the Panhandle. Highs tomorrow afternoon in the 50s for the southeast coast, mid to upper 50s Copper River Basin into, well, the Sitna Valley, lower 50s Kodiak, and 65 to 75, about sums it up here for the east central interior, and 35 central Arctic coast, otherwise 40s out west. And for the lows the following morning, looking at 45 to 50, give or take there for the Panhandle, and about the same here, lower to mid 40s South Central Alaska, Copper River Basin, and then mid to upper 40s over the remainder of all of interior Alaska, and the Arctic coast still in the 25 to 30 degree range for your lows, lower 30s in the Bering Strait, upper 30s of Pribilofs, and mid 40s, lower to mid 40s for the Aleutians. That'll be followed by highs Saturday afternoon, about the same what we've seen, 60, maybe a touch cooler, but generally the same, 65 to 75, so not too hot, but not really cold as well. Mid-30s on the Arctic coast, and 60s, cool into the 50s over the Yukon-Kuskokwim Delta, with, again, 40s, Pribilofs, Aleutians, lower 50s, Alaska Peninsula, and highs in the southeast coast, 55 to 63. And it looks like mostly in the mid to upper 50s, southern Alaska. Some areas might reach into the lower to mid-60s, maybe like Big Lake and Talkeetna. Palmer possibly, otherwise mostly 50s.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
First line weather graphic here showing good VFR tomorrow morning, interior Alaska, right on out to Norton Sound, up to Kivalina. IFR, most of the Arctic coast, and a zone IFR here from Prince William Sound, right down across the eastern Gulf of Alaska to along and just off the southeast coast, with some marginal VFR up here along the Alaska Range. IFR here, southeast Bering, and right up across Nunivak Island to Yukon Delta coast. For tomorrow afternoon, staying VFR in the interior for the most part, still some lingering marginal VFR, mostly along the eastern Alaska Range, down into the Talkeetnas, across Mentasta Pass, and some IFR now, mostly east of Cape Yakataga into Yakutat, but not quite reaching Elfin Cove. Marginal for the southeast coast, marginal for Kodiak, IFR, Alaska Peninsula, roughly Port Hayden or so on out to just east of Atka. More IFR, far western Aleutians. And for Saturday morning, not much change here, staying VFR over the interior. We've got some IFR right along the southwest coast here in Nunivak Island. IFR also from roughly False Pass, Cold Bay, all the way west across the Aleutians, covering just about all of the central and western Bering Sea. Pribilofs right on the edge there. VFR, St. Lawrence Island, up into the Chukchi Sea, marginal VFR along the Arctic coast, and some mixture of marginal and VFR over the Panhandle. And for Saturday afternoon, that goes back to kind of deteriorates to all marginal VFR for the southeast coast and right up to the North Gulf Coast as well, and northward across eastern Copper River Basin, across the Wrangels, and staying marginal central and eastern Alaska Range, but VFR, Kodiak Island, or portions of Kodiak Island here up in south central Alaska, Cook Inlet. Back to the northwest, IFR still hanging along the Yukon Delta coast to about Cape Newenham, Nunivak Island, but Pribilofs in the marginal zone there. VFR, Chukchi Sea, northwest coast up to about Point Lay. And then IFR from Wainwright over to Demarcation Point, with socked in IFR here over the central Aleutians all the way back to Shimmy and probably Komodorskis. And for the passes for Anatuvik, good VFR day tomorrow there, as well as Adigan. Coming south, Lake Clark and Merrill, both generally VFR, possible marginal VFR on both eastern entrances throughout the day. And for rainy, starting out a little more on the marginal side, could become VFR, probably become VFR in the afternoon, and windy, occasionally marginal the entire day. That same forecast good for Isabel, occasional marginal VFR, and Mentasta, I think will be solid marginal VFR throughout the day. I don't think it'll be down low enough for IFR conditions, but will definitely be marginal for that pass. Tenita, though, open VFR, and Portage, marginal VFR, and lowest conditions, eastern entrance, likely IFR. Chilkoot and White, VFR to start, and then becoming marginal, probably by or into the afternoon. Freezing levels showing pretty warm air aloft here up over northwest Canada, the upper level ridge that's kind of extending into the north central interior here with 8,000 feet there over the eastern side, 6,000 all the way out to St. Lawrence Island, kind of a gradient up there along and just off the Arctic coast, but that's the 4,000 foot isotherm there that is near the central coast. Otherwise, gradual cooling here to about 4,000 feet over Kodiak, and then generally looking at 4,000 feet across the Aleutians till you get out west of Kiska Island. And as far as icing goes, really not much out here in the west, maybe some spotty mixed icing possibilities there for the Pribilos, maybe the Fox Islands, up into Bristol Bay. Heavier zone here over the southeast interior, that moisture coming north-northwestward. And so into the Tanana Valley, especially along the North Gulf Coast, and then kind of maybe scattering out. But this will be mostly mixed with isolated moderate above 8,000 feet. Jet stream, good southwest flow right into the Panhandle, kind of a trough swinging up. So that's bringing the moisture for the icing that I just spoke of there and into the southeast interior here. Otherwise, big ridge farther out to the west, northerly flow coming across the western Bering and the Aleutians. 9,000 feet, southwest 15 to 25, or 20 to 25 in the Panhandle, and easterlies 25 northern interior, maybe up to 35 knots coming around this low. Same pattern at 3,000 feet. And turbulence with that. Northwest winds cause light to isolated moderate chop Fox Island. Southeast winds, light to isolated moderate chop for the Alaska Peninsula, maybe the western Alaska Range, a little bumpy, and Turnagain Arm, as well as the central Aleutians.
Jupiter at midnight. Hey there, stargazers. I'm Dean Regas, astronomer for the Cincinnati Observatory.
And I'm James Albury, director of the Kika Silva Pla Planetarium in Gainesville, Florida. We're here to help you find your way around the sky tonight. It's almost time for viewing my favorite gas giant planet at its biggest and brightest.
Jupiter, our largest planet in the solar system, will reach opposition on June 10th, and that means it will soon be the closest to the Earth for the year.
Exactly. Now, there's one little trick. Since it's almost summer, it doesn't get dark until very late at night.
So, we're going to stay up late and view the sky at midnight. And, you know what? We might get an extra special guest planet to make an appearance.
What are we talking about? Let's show you. Okay, we have our skies set for the end of this week at 10 p.m. facing southeast. As it gets darker, the brighter stars are starting to pop out.
As we get towards 10:30 and even 11 p.m., it's finally dark, and you can't miss our featured planet shining like a cream-colored beacon in the night. That's Jupiter, and it's really bright.
If we compare Jupiter to a star, like Antares over there, brightest star in the constellation Scorpius, you'll notice Jupiter doesn't twinkle as much as Antares.
Stars generally twinkle more than planets, so Antares will sparkle red and white, but mostly you'll notice the red. Jupiter will give off a steady cream-colored light.
Even though Jupiter is coming closer to Earth, it's still not exactly close. Jupiter will be about 400 million miles away from you.
But that's significantly closer than it was 6 months ago. Let's take a look at the Earth and Jupiter from space. Let's head above the Sun. We're looking down at the orbits of the Earth and Jupiter around the Sun. The Earth is, on average, 93 million miles away from the Sun, whereas Jupiter's average distance is 484 million miles.
As Jupiter and Earth orbit the Sun, they constantly vary their distance from each other. When Jupiter is at its farthest distance from us and is on the other side of the Sun, it can be as far away as 580 million miles away.
However, once every year, Earth and Jupiter line up on the same side of the Sun, and they're a lot closer. Instead of 580 million miles, they're only about 400 million miles from each other.
Whenever this happens, we say Jupiter is at opposition, because Jupiter is opposite the Sun in the sky as seen from Earth. And when Jupiter is at opposition, it's always at its closest, brightest, and best for viewing. I know you love staying up until midnight, Dehne, so let's advance time to then.
Hey, thanks. And this also puts Jupiter higher in the sky. Since Jupiter is near opposition, it makes a great sight in a telescope. Through a small telescope, you can see the disk of the planet and 4 moons nearby. Those are Io, Europa, Ganymede, and Callisto.
Through a larger telescope, you can see features on the surface of the planet. You can see 2 or more horizontal stripes, and if you're really lucky, you can sometimes make out the Great Red Spot.
The Great Red Spot is a humongous cyclone of gases that well up from the inside and churn the outer surface of the planet. Right now, the Great Red Spot is about the size of 2 Earths.
One other plus of staying up past midnight, you may be able to catch a glimpse of next month's featured planet. And it has lots of rings. That steady yellow light clearing the treetops is actually the ring planet Saturn.
No way.
Yes way.
I'm really looking forward to the summer when I can see both of these giant planets in the nighttime sky. This week, here is your preview.
So, look for Jupiter this week rising in the southeastern sky. You may have to stay up a little later than normal, but it is totally worth it.
And be sure to look at Jupiter in a telescope this month. Your view won't quite be this good. This was taken by spacecrafts that flew much closer to the planet. But it doesn't take much magnification to see Jupiter's 4 largest moons at opposition this month.
Jupiter will tide you over until Saturn season. It's all there when you keep looking up.
And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Welcome back. Today's sea ice analysis. Same trend we've seen for a while now, continuing to recede a little bit, melt here over the Chukchi Sea and to the west of the Arctic coast up here, and actually making a little bit more progress up to the north over the last few days. And that trend expected to continue more or less for the next 4 or 5 days. And for the coastal water forecast, south coast of the Panhandle, west-southwest 10 to 15, seas at about 8 feet. So that keeps small craft advisories in the forecast there. Same thing for the north coast, small craft advisories due to 9-foot seas with southwest winds becoming southeast on the extreme north coast about 20 knots. Gale force gusts out of the south tomorrow afternoon for Lynn Canal, 35. Gust 35 from the south, much lighter for Stevens Passage, south 15, and lighter yet for Clarence Strait, just barely a breeze at 10 knots with 2-foot seas. And for the Saturday outlook, northwest at 10, staying light there for the Clarence Strait area, west 15 here, all along the outer coastline, seas 7 feet, south 25 in the afternoon for small craft advisories in northern Lynn Canal. And for Prince William Sound tomorrow, east 20 knots, seas 3 feet. South 20 here for the Middleton Island zone, but the western North Gulf Coast, pretty light winds out of the southeast at 10 knots, seas 8 feet, or 8 feet, and 8-foot seas also for the Barrens with 15-knot winds. Cook Inlet, kind of north variable type of pattern with, or light north and variable with 2-foot seas, east 20 for Kamishak Bay. And then on Sunday, southeast 15, Kamishak Bay, Cook Inlet, southwest at 10 knots, stays light, 3-foot seas, and southeast at 10 for Prince William Sound, west-southwest 10 knots for the North Gulf Coast, same thing for the Barren Islands. So really light wind day coming up for all these areas on Saturday. And for Kodiak Island, Shelikof Strait, east 15, east side here, southeast 15, Sitkinak to Castle Cape, south winds 15 knots, southwest 15 to 20 here for the Alaska Peninsula, and southeast at 20 for Bristol Bay. East 15 for Bristol Bay there, right on down to Cape Sarachev on the north side of the Bering, or the Alaska Peninsula here, and from Cape Sarachev all the way up to Sitkinak, southeast at 15 with seas 6 to 7 feet, and south 15 for the east side of Kodiak with 7-foot seas also. And for the western Aleutians, we've got kind of a west-northwest wind pattern out there at about 20 knots with 6 to 8 foot seas. And for the central Aleutians, specifically around the AKwx area, north at 20 with 6 to 8 foot seas. And then Fox Islands here, anywhere from 15 to 25 knots from the northwest, and those seas running 5 to 9 feet. And the outlook for Saturday, not the weekend yet. Northwest 20 knots through Mac Island, otherwise northeast 15 to 20 front Alaska Island. And Atacanatka, northwest 25, small craft advisory level wind speeds there with 7 to 8 foot seas. And then winds diminishing as you head west here out toward that ridge of high pressure, and it gets all the way down to 10 knots out of the northwest from areas Kisk Island to Shemya. And for the southwest coast, actually south of Nunivak Island, northeast of 20, northwest 30, small craft advisories there, pretty stiff northwest breeze coming in there. Tomorrow's northerlies 25 knots for the northern Bering Sea and areas from the north side of Nunivak Island right up to the Bering Strait. Outlook for Saturday, lighter winds now. St. Lawrence Island, north at 20, Norton Sound south at 15, and easterlies 10 to 15 knots here along the southwest coast, and the Pribilofs northeast at 15, while St. Matthew Island will be looking at northwest winds at 15 knots with seas running at about 4 feet. And for the eastern Boulevard Sea coast, brisk wind advisories tomorrow in the, scratch that, small craft advisories. Got 6 to 7 foot seas, so no more brisk wind advisories, but central coast still ice, but they're under that level, so east winds at 20 there. And then small craft advisories on the west side. All the way down, it becomes north there south of Cape Thompson, but 25 knot winds right down to the Bering Strait. And then for the outlook on Saturday, no change here. North winds 25 from Tin City or Wales up to Cape Thompson, northeast 25 from Cape Thompson to Cape Beaufort, and then knock it down to 20 on the western coast. Turns easterly at 20 on the central coast, and small craft advisory east winds at 25 knots for the eastern Beaufort Sea coast. And for tonight, that's about what you're seeing up there now. Pretty windy, well, at least the inland areas or the coastal stations reporting 25, 35 mile per hour gusts. Looks like that'll continue tonight. Maybe some areas of fog and flurries, nothing really too serious. Clear and dry over the interior, and the showers diminishing, but hanging up along the Alaska Range all the way around, and drier for the Copper River Basin. Periods of light rain continue on the North Gulf Coast, and this weakening system pushes rain into the panel, which weakens tomorrow. And there's a look at Saturday.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.